We're live. I didn't hear the woman say this meeting is being recorded. Well, thank you all for being here for tonight's regular city council meeting on March 11th, 2024. We'll first get started with the roll call.
Kazi?
Here.
Jessica Andrade? Present. Diane Cocker?
Here.
Matt Lehman?
Here.
Christopher McMorrin?
Here.
Chaz Jones?
And present. Thank you. And before we get started with our regular business, we did want to mention and acknowledge our legal counsel, Jim Brewer, on the meeting, which is sad to all of us. He is retiring at the end of this month, so this is actually your last meeting, unless we call upon you for some special meeting between now and then. Could happen.
We are at your service.
Really appreciate all you do and all you've brought to our city, and really appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. I am required to say something now. So my former boss and then partner and retired partner Scott Fuel, Philomath was a special place. It is the first client that he had in private practice as a government lawyer. Place in our hearts. I've worked with 3 city managers, 4 different police chiefs, a large number of city councilors and planning commissioners. The City of Volunteers idea keeps coming up, and don't lose your sense of place, because it is a special place. And I would say uniformly, councils, the mayors, city staff, everyone, even when they are in disagreement, are trying to do the best thing and add the most value for the people who live in Philomath. And I applaud you all, and always in awe that you're willing to do these things, particularly those of you who don't get paid at all.
How long have you been here?
30 years as a lawyer. If you counted a year that I was law clerk doing municipal court stuff, 31.
Wow. And another few days and you could have another police chief under your belt.
Already counting it. That's also how I get to 2 more city managers.
We sure appreciate you.
Well, thank you all.
That makes this a memorable one. Thank you. So on the agenda tonight, we're going to have a proclamation on Women's History Month. We'll be going through public comments, an opportunity for public comments anyway. Consent agenda. We'll go through our consent agenda. We have a number of items on our new business, including potentially awarding a contract for our library expansion feasibility study, potentially awarding a contract for independent auditor, new independent auditor reviewing the grandstands and arena lighting RFP, doing our new Housing and Economic Development Committee, approving the membership of that, and the design review of the City Hall remodel. Then looking at an ordinance, revising ordinance of 844, adopting limitation of liability for use of trails, amending Municipal Code. With that, we will first get started with a reading of the Women's History Month Proclamation, and Andrade has volunteered to do that.
Don't we have to vote on it first?
We should vote on it as a resolution.
Yeah. Are there any suggested amendments or modifications to it, Councilor Andrade?
I would like to make a motion to amend the 5th whereas statement to remove first group of settlers and replace it with indigenous peoples. So that the line reads, whereas women from every part of society have been part of the building of Philomath, beginning with the indigenous peoples and continuing throughout history
And that was so you had a motion to that effect, and
Yeah.
I'll second that. Any further discussion, comments?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Mary Jo.
And can I ask for clarification? Are we striking the word first also?
Yeah, the first group of settlers and then just putting indigenous peoples.
Any further discussion, comments, questions? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Then we have a motion to approve the proclamation as amended.
So moved.
Okay. Second. We have a motion made by Councilor Andrade and seconded by Councilor Crocker. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Councilor Andrade, would you like to read the proclamation?
City of Philomath Resolution 24-05, Women's History Month Proclamation. Whereas the first Women's History Week was proclaimed by then President Jimmy Carter in 1980, and in subsequent years developed into Women's History Month by Congress in 1987, and whereas the theme for National Women's History Month in 2024 is Women Who Advocate for Equity, to recognize women throughout the country who understand that, for a positive future, we need to eliminate bias and discrimination entirely from our lives and institutions. And whereas this proclamation is an understanding of gender diversity that has existed throughout time and across cultures by creating an allyship of cultural understanding to all gender expansive people, including but not limited to cisgender, transgender, two-spirit, gender nonconforming, genderqueer, and anyone woman or girl identified. And whereas, despite the innumerable contributions women have made and continue to make, too little is taught or even known about the enormous impact women have on our collective national history. And whereas women from every part of society have been part of the building of Philomath, beginning with the indigenous peoples and continuing throughout history. And whereas the women of Philomath have served our country proudly and with courage. And whereas women of Philomath have been leaders fighting for freedom and justice throughout history. And whereas women of Philomath have been and continue to be an economic, cultural, and social strength who work together to build a strong community. And whereas we recognize women of Philomath have had an important role throughout history, providing much of the unpaid labor and volunteer services to our community. And whereas women are making history every day and will continue to do so in ways that will change our community and our country for the better. And now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the City Council and Inclusivity Committee of the City of Philomath, Oregon, hereby proclaim March 2024 to be Women's History Month. We hereby call on the people of our community to join us in celebrating the countless women who have fought tirelessly and courageously for equality, justice, and opportunity in our communities and in our nation. Passed by the City Council this 11th day of March 2024, approved by the mayor this 11th day of March 2024.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Happy Women's History Month. So next on the agenda is public comments. Is there anybody online?
No, sir.
There's nobody present. So we will move through that and move on to the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve consent agenda.
So moved.
Councilor Andrade made that motion, seconded by Councilor Kazi. Any further discussion? Councilor Kazi?
I do have a correction to the city council meeting minutes of February 12th. I just wanted to note that Mr. Penkella's name is misspelled. It appears on page 82, line 46, and page 83, line 15.
Thank you. We'll get that correction made. Okay, all in favor of passing the consent agenda as amended, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And next, we will discuss the library expansion feasibility study, and the awarding of that contract. Chris, do you wanna walk us through that?
I will. So the agenda item summary in your packet went through the process that we followed with the timeframes. We opened the proposals February 5th, 2024. You can discuss, I was very, very pleased with the response that we got. We had 9 proposals, which was terrific. All of them were thorough and complete and felt like gave us a good picture of the firms that they represented. I listed out the individuals that went through and individually scored each of those based on the criteria that was set up in the RFP that was already approved by the council. So went through, scored those individually, tallied those, narrowed it down to the top 3. Those top 3 were all interviewed. We did do virtual interviews just for make a convenience for everybody, and including the interviewers. And at the end of the day, scored each of those 3. Robertson Sherwood received the highest scores in the unanimous ranking between first, second, and third. And so it's the committee's recommendation and the staff committee that we move forward with a contract for Robertson Sherwood. We did include their cost estimates or their proposal estimates that they put together for us. You'll see Robertson Sherwood was there in the middle. I will say of the 9, they were in that middle as well, if not maybe more towards the lower third, I think would be fair to say. There were several applications that came in that 60,000 plus range, which if you remember last month, I asked that we increase the amount that we might have to put towards awarding this. I think originally the budget was $30,000 for this portion of the project, and I asked to think double that. Just because I was concerned about some of the higher numbers that had come in. But with Robertson Sherwood, we're at this 47,600. That does include some additional services that we intend to utilize them for. But all in all, we feel very comfortable with them. The mayor earlier today, I'm actually excited to get going and work with them because I can sense their excitement on wanting to take this project on. Libraries are special, as we all know. Architect firms love doing library projects because it's exciting for them. They get to work with community members that are excited about these projects, creating these spaces, creating these environments. And they look really, really good on their resumes when they go out for other projects. To say that they've done other community libraries is a big plus for them. And they're just good, friendly, happy spaces that you can do a lot with. And so overall, really pleased with the process that we went through, really happy with the results. So recommending that we go into architectural services with Robertson Sherwood, and happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Councilor McMorrin?
Just to refresh my memory, can you remind me what sort of the scope, like what will the final product that they're producing be?
Yeah, so we're first looking at a feasibility study. What are the current uses of the building, current layout, current functions? So they're going to be interviewing all of the library staff. They'll be interviewing patrons, having some community meetings and talking about, again, what's working well, what's not. Are there things that we'd like to do in the library that we can't currently do because of some restrictions in space? What do those look like? And then they're going to be looking at their recommendations on what they see best on their best practices, their training for flow, functionality, space requirements, those types of things. So we'll be getting back from them a proposal. Here's what we heard you wanted. Here's where your limitations are. Here's our recommendations for how to fix that, with some rough estimates on what that cost would look like. All of the firms, Robertson Sherwood especially, are very comfortable knowing there may be a large range there, right? This might be a $300,000 fix, some interior remodel. The gist in going through the interviews, it sounds like the librarians have a sense it's going to be a little bit more than that, and there's some needed space there. But they're very comfortable with that growing, and then they're also very comfortable with taking a pause and doing some fundraising, some capital campaigning, and knowing that they're going to be there for us when we're ready to move forward. So they have really good experience with other libraries about our size that have been through this process, and they just showed a really good history of being able to work with communities and again, continue that momentum and excitement for whatever that improvement might be, whatever we need. So
So we're not getting actual like architecture out of this necessarily.
we'll get some, no, we'll get the study and we'll get some conceptual stuff. Yeah, they'll do some design work for us. We'll get some renderings on what that would look like. But we're not gonna get a penny for penny,
Right.
design drawings or anything.
Any other questions? Don't have a recommended motion. Councilman Moore?
I move to approve the contract for architectural services with Robertson Sherwood and direct the city manager to execute the contract as presented.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilor McMorrin, seconded by Councilor Andrade. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And with that, we'll go and we'll talk about the selection of the new financial auditor. And I was unable to attend the last finance and admin meeting. Councilor Andrade, are you ready to discuss that?
Sure. So we have an audit, new financial audit, and at the committee, we reviewed the different firms, I guess, that had submitted. Well, we didn't. The committee decided. There was an evaluation committee. They evaluated it, and then we discussed the results and asked questions. And the evaluation showed that the different firms or accountants, consultants, that the top two, Singer, Luack, and Aldrich, had very close scores until taking into account the cost of services. Aldrich was significantly higher than Luack, and so that is the deciding factor that the evaluation committee had made. And so after asking a few questions, everyone was comfortable with moving forward with Luack, or however you pronounce.
Singer Lewack. It's two. The L is actually capitalized. It's two last names merged together, I believe.
I see. And there were, as the finance director had noted in his summary, there were a couple things that they requested be removed from the contract agreements. There are 3 different sections, and they're all non-applicable because they seem to be more applicable to construction-related projects. So that was about it.
Thank you. And Mike, do you have anything to add to that? I know you're online.
He's not online any longer.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, any other questions for staff? Nope. Would you recommend a motion? Councilor Causey?
I move to direct the city manager to execute the contract for financial auditing services with Singer Lewack following us the 7 days period.
So we have a motion by Councilor Causey and seconded by Councilor Lehman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda, we're going to look at a review of the Grandstands and arena lighting RFP. If you want to.
I can. So this is based on the last couple of meetings we've had on moving forward with this project. Again, we've got money from the state already. In the legislature, we've got a grant that we're going to be applying for, then we've got a loan that we can apply for if we need to, depending on how the rest of the funding comes in between now and then. Did appreciate being able to have that financial piece of it put together. So that definitely strengthens the RFP, knowing that there's funding available. As you can see, I'll go off script a little bit from the thing here. Let me make note of the calendar first that I did include. Just to give you a little bit of a time frame. We're a little tight right now to get approval and award and work through it. and get it out there, we definitely want to leave enough time to get good responses in. And once we get those responses in, it'll be, full steam ahead, getting final design and assembly, or construction of parts, manufacturing of parts, and then assembly in the spring, to get things moving. So is there, going off script a little bit, I will just say that, the way that the RFP itself reads, there's 4 different aspects that were identified. There's the prep work, which also includes groundwater treatment or not groundwater, but stormwater treatment and laying pipe and thing. It's construction of the grandstands, the lighting itself, and then the restroom and kind of additional pathways component of it. So the first phase of this, the design phase, will be for design of all 4 of those aspects, or each of those aspects individually. So it's written to where an electrician could just do the electrical work on the lighting portion of the project, or somebody who does prefabricated restrooms could submit a proposal for just the prefabricated restrooms, or you could get a general contractor that submits for all 4. Right, so there's some flexibility in how the city would be allowed to make awards and sort all of that through. And that's just on the design work. And then once design work is completed, then we enter into phase 2. We would negotiate a price, and then we would move into the construction phase of each of those 4 aspects. The 4th of which, the public restrooms, is subject to whether or not the city would get the grant from the state that we're applying for. So, the RFP, other than that, is pretty straightforward. There's a lot of legal language in here that's coming from the engineering firm, from West Tech Engineering. They just used a very similar design build RFP for another project that they did for another city. So they feel pretty confident in this RFP and be able to get good responses back. So again, there's a recommended motion on this as well, but I'm happy to answer any questions that might be out there.
Councilor Andrade?
I had a couple of scrivener's corrections, but the main thing I was hoping for clarification on is the schedule, because it looks like the dates you have listed are incorrect. The deadline for RFP protest. Deadline of April 4th, but then later on in 5.1, it says they must be submitted no later than March 29th.
Yeah, I think the table needs to be updated, so I can update that before it gets released.
And then are you looking for a submittal deadline of April or of March?
We'd be looking at the April.
The April one? Okay.
The cover page is incorrect.
Cover page stuff, yeah. We were hoping to get this out a few weeks ago, and it's got delayed to this meeting.
We can get that fixed, cleaned up. Other comments? Councilor first.
Is the expectation that the foundation work would be complete before?
Yes, the goal for the construction is to have the prep work and the foundation done before winter hits.
Because that area does flood, correct?
It does. Yep. There's some, there's some additional steps we need to do there. It is in the floodplain, so we need to maintain elevation of the current elevation, which means anywhere they're putting a concrete foundation, they need to dig down and then fill back. And there's some paperwork we need to go through just to verify that we're maintaining elevation, and we have a no rise opinion that shows that we're not creating additional rise in the floodwaters because of the development that we're doing there. So that's a little bit of a process to go through. I'm not qualified to issue one of those letters of no rise. It takes a little more expertise than what I have, so we'll need to contract for that. But again, timing wise, if we can get all that done in time, then it'll be done this fall. If that delays things, it can get done in the spring. It just means that we're waiting for the ground to soften up or harden up enough to get in there and work on it. So it would just potentially delay things a little more. So we're really trying to get it done this fall.
Councilor Andrade?
To clarify, the thing about Ninth River, is that just a donation? that they made.
Yeah, the Frolic and Rodeo was able to get a $70,000 contribution of materials
Awesome.
from Knife River, so that'll go towards that. We want to make sure that's recognized and they take that off of their proposal. And that they don't go to Knife River and ask for additional funding. The Good Scouts.
Yeah. We're gonna be getting a lot.
Councilor Warren?
I love that restrooms and ADA paving and everything is included in this. I hope we do everything we can to not have that be unincluded in this. I was just curious for paving of walkways. I'm just trying to think where, like, do you know which walkways you're envisioning? Because I feel like there aren't super clear like paths at the rodeo ground. More sort of like areas. So I was curious kind of what you're envisioning.
It'll be final design. It's essentially, we want somebody who's handicap accessible or has those needs to get from the parking lot to the ticket office, to the grandstands, to the restrooms, to the beer garden. And we want to make sure that we've got paths for them to be able to do that. So hard surface in all those areas. And they're mostly there now, but with the new grandstand, some of the seating will be back behind. So we'll need to add some paved area. And then we've also talked about adding some paved path from 13th Street down the current access to get to Marys River Park. So we dropped that in there as well. So it hasn't, I kind of have an idea, but we haven't finalized that yet. We'll do that in this phase 1 aspect of it.
Cool. Thank you.
Councilor Johnny?
Asking first before potentially making a motion. Besides the lighting, do you see there being other kinds of ways that there can be bids for more environmentally friendly or energy efficient related, designs and stuff like that? Like,
I mean, my biggest concerns on this environmentally is the current grandstands that used to be trusses for a bridge for a railroad that are being used. Those are gonna need to probably go to a special burial place. We're gonna pay a little bit extra for that, I'm sure. So I wanna make sure that gets cleaned properly and that gets disposed of properly. And then again, we are looking to convert to the LED lighting as opposed to the halogen ones we're using now, which have a huge electric draw, so that'll be an improvement. But other than that, I mean, you're talking about concrete and steel frame and aluminum benches. Outside of just the lighting itself, which will be huge. There is I don't want to say too much, but I'll say it because I always say too much in these meetings. There's an existing roof on the current stands. I will say I am still in discussions with the rest of the board on whether to maintain that or not. And the main reason for retaining that is to have a place to be able to put some solar panels. It's a natural, seems like a great place to put solar panels, and that would help that project, and it could feed into the system. But that's still out for discussion. There's some on the board that would like to just get rid of that covering altogether and just start all new. I'm in the other camp that would like to preserve it and, spruce it up a little bit, put a new coat of paint on it. But I don't know if I'm in the majority or the minority today, so. And I really do think that's an appropriate Frolic and Rodeo decision. I mean, that was erected by the Frolic. It's technically, for all intents and purposes, theirs. And as far as functionality operations goes, I think it's kind of their call. But I'm going to be arguing in favor of maintaining it and keeping it and enhancing it.
I think from a city standpoint that would probably be in our best interest as well. But to clarify, I didn't see anything in here unless I missed it about the switching of the lights. Like, is there like another paper that has kind of those like requesting these kind of things?
No, we're gonna, as part of the RFP, we're telling them, bring us your design, right? And then we'll select somebody to do the arena lighting based on what design they submit. We'd still need to work out the scoring and how that works, but for this site, we wouldn't entertain anything other than LED, and that's what everybody's using.
I haven't. Well, thank you.
it's really a matter, on the lighting, it's really a matter of how high are your posts gonna be, and the higher, the less reflection you have. And then how many lights and how powerful are they? Do you have more of them that are less powerful, or fewer of them that are more powerful? And then a lot of it's just based on height. And, you know, do you want it to be noon daylight, or do you want it to be 5 o'clock PM daylight? Do you want it to be white? Do you want it to be yellow? So there's some considerations, but the people that install these, they're basically say what's your price range, and then we'll build you something that's gonna be effective for that price.
So then on that note, I guess, I would be concerned about potential interference with like birds and bats and stuff like that. And so I'm sure there are best practices, but is that something that we would need to like put in here of like, you know, as, I don't quite know what the standards are.
Yeah. I'm not familiar enough to know if there's any concerns about birds and bats with lighting for sports fields and that type of thing. I don't know. I don't see it any different than the baseball sports fields or the ones at the other fairgrounds or any place else around. I don't know. I've never heard that before, but it's definitely something we'd ask. I don't know. I'd put that level of detail in the RFP, but it may be something we could ask once we get somebody on board. You know, are there other precautions we need to take? We'll definitely be talking about directions and shading for sides and stuff. There's neighbors, and we don't want the lights spilling out into the park next door and things. So there'll be a lot of things to consider, and a lot of those I'm not even familiar with yet. So you bring up a good point.
And on that note, how many days a year do the lights on? Or you?
So right now, well, last summer, maybe 14 nights that we had it between the frolic and the junior rodeo and other events that were held there. But again, the intent is to do that more often, right? To have more events and to utilize it more often. And if we have better lights that aren't such a huge draw and so expensive to turn on, then we'll do more to encourage more evening type events. Because right now we discourage people from turning the lights on. We charge quite a bit extra if they turn on the lights. It's an extra like $200 just to flip the switch on. Expense for the frolic. So
I heard Taylor Swift might be interested in coming here if we have the right.
my daughter is of that same group. Yeah.
Councilor McMorrin?
My last, I guess, question is just around sort of the visual appearance of this. There's a lot of concrete and steel. And I'm curious if there's any consideration for sort of the Timber Town vibe that we're implementing everywhere else in town, including later on the agenda for this building. And I don't want to add exponentially to the costs or anything, but just if that's part of the discussion, or if it could be part, even if it's just sort of very facade level. I'm always just a big fan of if we're asking our business owners to do something, we should try to do that too. But
yeah, I don't know on the build of the grandstands themselves will be incorporated. They're still in aluminum.
right.
There's some coatings you can put, some like caps that go on there, but those are like a solid plastic. We're looking at different colors. We are looking to incorporate some flags and some banners, some canvas type areas, so it doesn't just look like a metal still grandstands, but we're pretty limited on what you can do there. We are incorporating the Timbertown look, like with the look for the restroom that we'll be looking at. The Youwood Corral, the beer garden area, we've just added new signage and things there that look really sharp, and it's all wood-based products. So I think there's other areas. The ticket office is made out of all wood, and it's kind of got a log facade look to it. So it's around for sure, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we could incorporate it into the grandstands themselves, but definitely the area surrounding it.
We don't want another fire. And that would encourage us not to build with wood on the grandstands.
Yeah, the woods would not be grandstand. I think he's talking more of a facade or some type of look or something. So I think any of that would be outside of what we're doing here, and I'd probably put that on the frolic more to, hey, let's find some ways to wood it up a little bit, put some accents or some,
You know, like the closest we have to like a theme park. You know, I feel like we got to really theme it up.
yeah.
Would you recommend a motion? Councilor Kazi?
I move to approve the RFP for the grandstands and arena lighting project as presented and city manager to advertise.
Excellent. We have a motion made by Councilor Causey, seconded by Councilor McMorrin. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Aye. Carried unanimously. Excellent. Next on the agenda is an approval of the Housing and Economic Development Committee membership. If you want to discuss that.
Yeah, we'll just note, I was pleasantly surprised at the number here. They kind of were trickling in over the few weeks, and in my mind, I was at 6, maybe 7, and when I started putting this together, we were at 10, which was terrific. And then as soon as we put it together and we sent the packets out, I had an 11th person come in and say, I really want to be on this committee. I would actually recommend that she be added to this list of individuals, which would bring us up to 11. Plus our 3 city council members. I did go back and look at the memo that the council was presented with in January about forming this committee, and it does specifically say no fewer than 5 and not to exceed 11 citizen members. It's moot about city council members, but it does say up to 11 citizen members, and so we're still, by the letter of the law there. We just added some additional city council members to the committee membership. But all of that said, I think as a slate is what we're looking to approve this as. Everybody showed good interest. Like everybody on this committee is going to bring different perspectives. There's a good mix, as you can read, of some property owners, some business owners, some people interested in housing, people concerned about the direction that the city's going that they're not in favor of, and they want to try to right the ship a little bit, which is okay too. So I think there'll be a wide range of perspectives on here. I do want to appreciate all of the folks on the city council that were interested. Again, I just went first come, first serve, but if the council wants to make a different decision there, that's great. But I want to acknowledge Councilor Crocker and Councilor Andrade also offered to help serve on this committee. They were just the 4th and the 5th out of the first 3 that had asked or requested. So if we want to pull names out of a hat or do something different, that's fine. But otherwise, the staff recommendation is to go with the 10 listed here. The name to add would be Nancy Murphy, as the resident that addressed me on Friday. So we'd add her as an 11th, and then the 3 council members as presented. I'm thinking we'll probably look to that first Monday of the month to start meeting. But as soon as this gets approved or we get an approval here, then I'll reach out to the committee and take a bit of a doodle poll and try to find a date. I'm excited for this committee. I think there's a lot that this committee will be able to get some movement on. So, any questions?
Seeing none.
There's a recommended motion.
I move to approve the slate of applicants for the newly formed Housing and Economic Development Committee as presented, with the addition of Nancy Murphy.
You would like to amend? Okay, that's your motion. Yes.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Crocker and seconded by Councilor Causey. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Aye. Aye. Motion carries. Wonderful. So next on the agenda is a discussion of the City Hall remodel and design review.
I appreciate Brad still in my thunder on this one a little bit. Brad Fuqua from the paper. And a nice article picked up from the last work session about this topic when it came up. So it was great. I just took the article and create my agenda item summary. So thanks again, Home with News. But no, all joking aside, this is an exciting project. We've talked on the peripheral, but I recognize the council hasn't seen anything yet. Most of this has been developed through discussions with staff and with the management team. We met again with staff this morning and went through these. Most of the concerns were kind of about individual workspaces and the layout of the desk within the workspace, but nothing that we can't get through when we get to a final design type phase. I do think that we will be looking to maximize our existing work spaces and our existing desks and whatnot. A lot of stuff in here is drawn as brand new stuff, but obviously where we don't need to spend money, we won't. But those are fairly minor expenses compared to what we're looking to do. hopefully you had a chance to read through the agenda item summary. This is really all about ADA accessibility. And I hit on several areas where this design would allow us to substantially increase our accessibility for folks. It's a lot about security for our employees, which is important to me. And it's something I've been hearing for a number of years. And every year we work a little bit closer towards solving it in different ways. And I think that this, from what I heard from staff, they will feel much more secure in this type of setup. We talked a little bit about capacity, having room for additional employees out there. I believe in the memo I addressed as well about having a room available for the prosecutor to meet with people as opposed to doing it out in the hallway. As people are walking forth, going to the bathroom or getting in the kitchen or whatever. It'll be nice for the prosecutor to have a place where they can go in and close the door and have those type of private discussions in a private room. And then we're also looking to move the judge out, and the judge will come into this room here, which is right now full of financial records and storage and PA equipment. And so that will all go back into this storage here, which is locked behind lock key, and we'll be able to keep secure. So we'll have prosecutor and the judge, and these will be open throughout the month for other small meetings. Not uncommon anymore for employees to have virtual meetings they need to be on, virtual phone calls, whatever. And even with the new layout, it's not real conducive for that. So this will leave an area for staff to be able to come and attend those virtual meetings and trainings and things in a little bit better environment. So not having to disrupt everybody else or do the whole headphones thing and try to lighten your microphone. So anyway, layout wise, just give a little bit more capacity. And aesthetically, talking about the timber town as we just were with the grandstands, definitely want to incorporate the timber town look and lead by example here. This look does just that. It applies the 3 different building materials, which is the current standard in the development code, as allows the exposed beams for the timbers, the metal awnings over the windows, which will provide some shade and add some aesthetic nice look to it. The stonework as well. So, we definitely want to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And so, a fairly good percentage of this project is going to be this exterior additional facade improvements there, as well as addressing some of the ADA issues that I mentioned in the report. And then lastly, as I mentioned in the work session, everything that we're looking at here, I think just generally we need to commend ourselves a little bit because we do have some needs at the city, but we're not going out with a $2 or $5 million bond to Philomath residents to say, hey, let's build a new city hall that's twice as big or 3 times big that we can grow into over the next 50 years, right? We have some issues. Those are addressed, but we can meet those issues and tackle those issues with this pretty small remodel for under $500,000, under $500,000. We can address all these things. It's money that we've saved and put forward towards a remodel of buildings. Yes, we took some money from PD, but it's money that we've put aside every year for the last several years so that we could do some type of a remodel in City Hall. We're not borrowing additional money, we're not raising taxes, we're not out for bond for this improvement. As the city grows and we have to hire new staff and this space starts to get filled, eventually we're going to need to have a bigger city hall. And what we've looked at with this remodel project is when we do remodel City Hall, it will be behind us. It's not going to be out towards the street. And so all of the work that we're doing here will stay. This is a temporary fix for 5 years or 10 years that's going to then get ripped off and replaced with a new building. When we go to remodel City Hall again, because we need a bigger footprint, we need more office space, we'll build that space to the south, into the filled area. More towards Marys River Park, yes, a little bit more into Marys River Park, but that'll be an expansion that'll again increase the footprint. That will be a much larger and more expensive project. But again, I think it's good that we are looking at what are the needs today. How can we do today what needs to be done today to put us in a good spot to last us at least the next, I would say 5 to 10 years, pending some huge big population boom that I don't foresee happening. So that's kind of everything. Those are kind of my 5 points I keep hitting on with this project. I'm excited for it. With the council's approval, we'll get a RFP out for final design and construction, but I wanted you to see from the features we're looking at, see the layout we're looking at, and take any input or concerns that you've got. I'll make one last statement. I was waiting for you to raise my hand so I could do that. What's shown on the exterior picture, this page 2, one additional ADA feature that we'll be looking to do is where this loading unloading zone is. More than likely that will, in final design, that'll extend all the way across the parking lot and connect to the existing sidewalk that's in front out at the street. And that'll give a clear path from the street all the way across the sidewalk or all the way through the parking lot and up to the front door, so that if somebody is in a wheelchair or needs accessibility, they don't have to take the sidewalk to the driveway or the access, the street access, and then it's kind of a vehicles there, everything else. That's really the only flat surface to get them all the way up to the sidewalk that runs in front of the right in front of the building. So this will give a lot cleaner, safer path to be able to get from the sidewalk up to the front doors of City Hall. So if that's not captured in here, it will be captured in final design.
Thank you. Councilor Husband.
Does this include the restrooms and the kitchen or no?
No,
So nothing will be done.
no improvements to the restroom or the kitchens.
From that wall, from your office, this way, there's no improvements.
No changes. Well, other than exterior. So this first door that we're looking at here will be removed and we'll just have the exterior door with a push button ADA door.
Councilor McMorrin?
That was just is it only the 2 entrance doors that will have the push button?
Yes.
Councilor Conradi?
To clarify, so the preliminary design, these are the key features that you're looking for in the RFP, but like it's not necessarily going to look like this, correct? Because there's a final design, RFP for final design and construction.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So this software is pretty good.
Uh-huh.
But, they've not actually gotten a part number for the stone facade here in the front. I don't know what that is yet, right? It could look a little different shade or color, but this is where we're at today. So anybody that's going to respond to the RFP, they're going to start here and then alter from this. But we want to be pretty darn close to what you're looking at here. So if there's things here that you hate, now would be a good time to note it. So make note of that going into it.
So, yeah, thank you. To clarify, super stoked about this. This is awesome. I love the increased accessibility. One thing that I don't know if it's just my understanding of the lobby remodel, so there's only going to be 3 windows, is that like service windows? And I don't know if it's the printer or not, but the gray might seem a little too dark. If there's only going to be 3 windows, I would just be a little concerned that it might feel a little claustrophobic and less welcoming. Something to consider.
Yeah.
Either that or having like a wider opening of window similar to the county photo that they have there, so that it's like, I swear there's people here. Like, that's the only thing I kind of worry about is like, it might seem a little odd.
It may be hard to see, but I'm looking on page 5.
Mhm.
So as you first walk in there, that is a corner. So that whole corner is glass.
Oh,
Kind of like
okay.
at the county, and so it won't just be the service window. That whole area is the glass service area.
Okay.
So you'll be able to see. You can kind of see the chair. That's where the utility payment customer service person would be. And then to the left of that, that's not a window. That's the door back on the back wall. You'll actually see our court clerk sitting there as well. And so there's quite a bit of exposure there. As you walk into left, and then behind you we'll have all the glass doors like this letting light in, and then there's rope lighting. Again, this is hard to tell in the pictures. There's rope lighting all the way around the outside of the ceiling, which will shine down, And then you've got these hidden lights that'll be in the ceiling coming down, and then plus you have the decorative out there. So depending on how cloudy is outside, we'll be able to have different switches to get it nice and light in there. Our architect was worried we were gonna be too bright in there. I'm like, I want it nice and bright. We got winter days.
Okay, cool, thank you. Yeah, the only thing I would be a little concerned about would be making sure it's.
Any other questions? Councilmember Moore?
I guess the only thing is just for that utility clerk, making sure that they're then prepared to sort of be the receptionist for the city, since that's the largest window and right in the front.
They pretty much do that now.
I just like, I always walk in and turn to Ruth, and now I won't be able to do that, so, just because I real like, yeah, if someone wants to come talk to Chelsea, they'll probably walk up to the utility clerk. If they wanna come, talk about whatever, but.
And we did add some signage, and again, it's hard to see on here, but we'll have like utility pavement up above there.
Right.
And to the left, it'll say court clerk,
Right,
and then to the right, we'll have one that says
okay.
building permits, so we'll do some signage there. And on the exterior of the building, we'll have signs on either door as well. On that door, it'll say like City Hall, administration, building permit, whatever. And then on this one, we'll have City Hall, and it'll say council chambers, municipal court. So people first get to the parking lot, it won't be like a guessing game. Where do I go into? So I think the signage will help.
We do have recommended motion. Mr. McMorrin.
Sorry.
Go for it.
I move to approve the preliminary design of the City Hall remodel project and direct city to prepare an RFP for final design and construction.
We have a motion made by Councilor McMorrin, seconded by Councilor Ozzie. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand, Scott.
Aye.
Great, motion carries unanimously. And next on the agenda is ordinance 844. Do you wanna read this for us, your last? Public meeting?
This is ordinance number 884, an ordinance amending the municipal code to adopt limitation of liability for certain claims arising from the use of trails or structures within public easements and unimproved rights of way under ORS 105.668.
Thank you. And we will vote on that via roll call vote.
Question. This is the correct number ordinance, and it's just a typo on the agenda items under summary, correct?
884 or 844?
It's one of those two. I would go with 844 is probably. 844 or 884?
Just a moment.
Yes, exactly.
Just give me 1 second.
Figuring that, can we have discussion of this, or are we just gonna go right to vote?
What, you can ask a question.
I would like to ask a question of our, council.
884.
That's cool.
The ordinance is.
So it seems like our esteemed legislature just passed some kind of law regarding this very topic, and it means like from that there's gonna be ongoing discussion of this topic at a state level, and wondering what implementing something like this on a local level is gonna, but if it's gonna butt up against that, if it really is gonna provide any of the things that we're trying to achieve with it.
That's a good question. So the current issue that the legislature addressed is supposed to be a gap filler before they pull it up again in the next session. We hope. This is following a different statute. It's related on recreational immunity specific to trails and rights of way. And in order to get that liability at the local level, because we're not one of the many cities in Oregon over 500,000 who get it automatically under the statute, we have to do it through either an ordinance or a resolution.
Is there a city over 500,000?
It's astonishingly, there must have been one who lobbied for this particular language. And then you know, everybody else has to do something. I think it is likely that this will end up getting, this ordinance will be amended again, depending on what language the legislature actually lands on. In the interim, if people are recreating, or walking, as part of going to or from recreating, this will provide the city with some, immunities as a result.
I have a follow-on question. So it's talking about rights of way as well as trails. So like we have a bunch of I'd like to call them abandoned alleys in our city. Is this gonna apply to those as well?
So we have two different kinds of abandoned alleys. We have some alleys that were platted, undeveloped rights of way that the city has vacated in kind of large numbers. Those are not currently undeveloped right away, but if somebody wanted to give us an easement for a trail through there, they would have recreational immunity for people walking through those areas.
And then where did this come from? These recommended adjustments?
I'm sorry, which
Like we came up with the idea to write this ordinance, and I'm wondering where that came from.
It actually comes out of statute. So there's the statute's been on the books for 10 or 15 years. I think the city did actually pass a resolution at one point that accomplished the same thing, but I may be wrong. When this statute was first put in place, cities all around the state just quickly adopted these.
It's not currently in ordinance, so put in ordinance was recommended.
Yeah.
To do, and again, there's a lot of attention on recreational immunity right now, as you noted. This is seen as, let's at least get this far, knowing that we may have to change the language, or at least get this language in there, similar to what other cities have, so when we're adopting and changing, we're on par with what everybody.
Just out of, to answer your question, I think Public Works was on a listserv about this topic, and cities that had this immediately after the Newport case. CIS had some things on this, and then just as we were working on this, Elder Hammond also sent, hey, here's what we're recommending to our cities. Here's an ordinance, here's a resolution.
That's what I was asking.
Okay.
Thank you.
But we already had this in place.
This is a general question that may be best answered by our city recorder, but how often is our municipal code updated to incorporate these ordinances?
So the number of ordinances we pass, we can have it updated as soon as we want. Because there's cost involved in having it updated, I try to, group it. If we've passed 2 ordinances in 6 months, then we only do it once every 6 months. We've had some recent ordinances that have, made some substantial changes, I think, to our parks code, the reservation system and that. So the update, this next update will actually happen fairly soon.
Is your question how often is the online, how often is the code, the codification updated? Or is it how often do people look at the municipal code and say, hey, do we need to update that? Those are two different things.
Well, I guess what I was thinking is we pass a lot of ordinances in here. And it's like, okay, what happens after we pass it? When does it actually?
Busy ordinances, yeah, so it probably won't be 6 months, well, it would be June, which is gonna come up fast, but I'm anticipating doing it sooner than that.
And in the meantime, Ruth does post them on the website as recently passed ordinances. Until they get codified, and once they're codified, then they come off of there, and then they're just part of the code. But we do list them on the website, so they're not just, they got passed, but nobody knows about them yet. If you keep them in limbo, they'll be posted there.
So they become effective upon passage.
30 days, probably, yeah.
But they become effective 30 days after passage.
This was just sort of off topic a teeny bit, but still related. I just wanted to share because I thought Chris would appreciate this on the whole city of 500,000 thing. There was a bill last session, I think, to allow the creation of a Parks and Recreation district, the board of whom would be simultaneously the city councilors for that jurisdiction. And then that bill was amended to only apply to cities with populations over 500,000. So,
There's so many though.
yeah.
The law of general application.
So all of those various cities in Oregon with a population over 500,000 can now do that.
So we can go ahead and do a roll call vote on it.
Jessica Andrade,
Yes.
Ruth Causey,
Yes.
Diane Crocker,
Yes.
Matt Lehman,
Yes.
Christopher McMorrin,
Yes.
Chaz Jones.
Yes. Excellent. And I'm gonna add one thing to the agenda for this evening before we get to the reports. If I were mayor contest, concluded on March 1 in the city of Philomath, and we did get 8 submissions from 6th and 7th graders from Mrs. Oifling.
A-fly.
Thank you. Apron, class. And just recognizing those submissions by name at least, and then I will offer the winners here. But we had a submission by Yuri Shuf. We had a submission by Oda, in parentheses, Candy Settles. We had another submission by Gwen Hughes. A submission by Sierra Court. And Zainab Clare, Ruby Oster, and Ava Oster. And yeah, so they were 6th and 7th graders, all from one class, and we do have the first place person who won was Ava Oster, and the second place is actually Ruby Oster.
Family.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the opportunity to read them because I feel like they're great. But so the first place winner, Ava Oster. Mayors have been around for a long time and are thoughtful people that help make our town better. Mayors oversee great ways to build community alongside friendship. What if your community had special bonding times or fun activities for everyone? Then I might just want to move in. Philomath is an awesome town of fun things and people, but everything has its flaws, so here are a few things to patch those up. Rodeos are great places to bring people together, whether they're, you can put this in the RFP. Or your grant proposal.
Notes.
Whether there's winning carnival games or spilling all your popcorn cheering for the Bronc rider, everyone loves the cold ice cream that melts in the sun. Philomath has good rodeo grounds, but the population is continually growing, and we might need more space. The rodeo grandstands burned not too long ago, and I believe they should be rebuilt for the comfort of all the guests, but also for the town to not have a bad reputation. Rodeos are a great way to get the crowd cheering, and lots of people cheer not only for the regular rodeo activities, but also for fun new games that take place during the show. These games could include categories related to mutton busting, cowboy poker, cowhide relay, and calf scramble. Overall, I love to watch rodeos, and I know that others love it too. Philomath is a great town, not too big and not too small. And that is perfect combination for community-wide events. Communities bring people together. Sometimes it's the games, sometimes it's the food, sometimes it's even just for the laughs. Whatever it is, everyone loves a fun time to hang out with friends and family. One thing that lots of people like to do are dances. And one thing I love to do is line dancing. You can either line dance with people you know, people you don't know, or even by yourself. Either way, it's always fun to have a cool night to go out and dance to some old country songs, and I think that's a great thing for Philomath to have regularly. Holidays are also a great way to bring people together, so why not help our Earth with all those people? Earth Day is usually not regarded as a super famous holiday, but it is important, so why not make it important by helping our Earth and planting trees all together? One last thing that brings people together is age. Teenagers love to have parties and hang out with friends, so why not make a fun event? Why not make it that a fun event instead of having them sneak out and have to go have a secret party without their parents knowing? She doesn't know that she just told her parents. Having teen hangout times can help you get people together and have fun. Some great games that I love are relay races, mud games, bubble soccer, flag football, butterball, paintball, and so much more. Wouldn't it be nice to have fun without getting in trouble? I always love to play big group games because the more the merrier. One thing that every city also needs is a grocery store. I don't mean the fast general store. That is great if you need a quick gift or a snack. I mean an actual grocery store. Food is a necessity to everyone, and people that live in the heart of Philomath might not want to drive farther to Corvallis when they could just walk to a grocery store down the road. Philomath is not a huge town, but we get bigger by the year, and we need to be able to contain all the needs of the people, and that can be solved. A grocery store would make people happier about saving gas in their cars and putting money in their wallets, and it would help to spread and develop Philomath, making it more seen than it is now, being in the shadow of Corvallis. I love Philomath so much, and I love the thought of more friends, but I am glad that it's not huge because it is our special little town, and I like it that way. I want to get to know more people, and I want to do that by going to more events and activities, but I can't do that if there aren't any. So put on your thinking caps and imagine, if you were mayor, what would you do differently? And I did share all these electronically with all of you. I won't go through that one tonight, but you can read it after the meeting. So thank you very much, Ava. Thank you very much, Ruby. And thank you very much to Ms. Afline, for encouraging your class. This was not a required activity. This was a volunteer activity, and I really want to appreciate the teachers and the schools for partnering with the city and contributing to the If I Were Mayor conference. Thank you. Councilman Warren?
I don't know if you already told Ava that they won, but okay,
You're not there.
when you do that, can you make sure they know that we really heard them and we will be rebuilding the Frolic and Rodeo grant on their recommendation?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Chris, you want to go in the report?
Yeah. Got the cowboy poker going in my mind right now. Dangerous. Yeah, I won't go into a lot of details. Management report's there. Appreciate the management team putting this together every month. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you've got, but as you can see, we've been pretty busy. A lot going on. Feel like we're gearing up for a busy spring and summer. But yeah, a lot going on. Happy to answer any questions.
I just wanted to note that every time I walk by the Memorial Park and there's not school in session, there are children in that park playing. It's awesome.
Kazi?
I wanted to hear, I noticed that you attended the Workforce Oregon Job Fair. How was that?
I'll let Chelsea report on that. She was able to attend last Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. There were about 50 people came. I talked to not a ton of people, but I just tried to flag everyone down. I was right at the entrance there, so tried to get people's attention. There were some people that very specifically were looking for more mill jobs, and there were a lot of different mills in attendance there. So I felt very hopeful for them that they're going to be able to get jobs. But I did have several people that were interested in maybe some of our more permanent positions that we hopefully have coming up soon. And I actually received 1 or 2 emails. I said, email me if you're interested so we can know that you're interested and see if we can kind of fast track getting some of those positions opened. So I did hear from a couple people, but it went really well. It was a very positive event, and I just think there are a lot of really good resources there for them.
I do want to commend Workforce Oregon. The mayor had done some outreach there and others, but they held an event last Friday, a week ago Friday, where they had several individuals from the state come down, unemployment office or the employment office. They talked about unemployment insurance. They talked about, food stamps and all different, state agencies that are out there and available for folks that are going through hard times. So they did that last Friday, we could go Friday, and then this last Friday they had this organized. So within 2-week periods of time, I feel like they really targeted folks at Interfor. This job fair was at Interfor for Interfor employees. I think they had over.
It wasn't at Interfor, it was at WorkSource Oregon, which I didn't know. I went to Interfor, so I had to drive over really quick to Corvallis, but.
Okay. But I think they had over 15, 20 different employers.
Yeah, they did, and Sharon from Philomath Community Services was there. So, yeah, they had a lot of employers. Most of them were kind of the mill trade, but there were some different employers or temporary services. The bus company that's out here that drives for Corvallis was there. So like a lot of different options. And there were some people that were definitely thinking of shifting maybe from mill work, like, to a different type of work. So it was really good. And the WorkSource people were really great, very welcoming, and did a great job.
My second question, being somewhat sensitized to concrete issues and problems with concrete, I saw this oversaw repair of concrete slabs at Cochrane Veterans Memorial Park. What happened?
I guess we'll chalk it up to a mismeasurement from the concrete contractor. We'll just say it was enough to make it so everything that had been designed so carefully to be symmetric and in line wasn't. We went like a foot too far one way, and it just misaligned all of the center lines and everything, so they just redid a little portion of that. It looks great now.
Like with the flagpoles.
Yeah.
I did notice that. I went over there, I was like, am I like,
Yeah, make sure.
like, did I have a little too much to drink or something?
I had the same reaction. I was
Okay, yeah.
for the memorial.
Yeah.
This looks wrong, right? This isn't just me being picky.
Contractor jumped right on it, got it repaired, no questions asked. They recognized it was off. They got it fixed. Looks great now.
Thank you. And I do appreciate all the benches out there. There's a lot of benches there.
Yeah, looks nice.
I had one question on like Cochrane Park. I'm just trying to remember in the original designs, is there still gonna be like a covered like structure going in, and do you know when that's going in?
Yeah, I won't say too much. We're working with a private contractor that's looking to donate something.
Okay.
So,
And is that still in that sort of by Memorial Day
just
timeline?
to the right. Yeah, I don't know. We're still waiting to shore things up a little
Okay,
bit.
okay, cool. I was over there and I was like, I feel like there was supposed to be something here.
Yeah, very generous offer to
Yeah, that's
provide that, and so we're kind of working on their timeframes.
Totally,
Yeah,
totally. Okay.
within the next few months, we'll see something there.
And how are things going with the like memorial piece?
Good. We had to regroup a little bit with the company, but I actually just got our final contract, and we're trying to get the timeline sorted out, but we have a good design that's going to fit with that space that we have. And so yeah, it's going to look really great, and they're on board, and so hopefully we're going to get that tomorrow. I'm going to get that solidified, get the date. I'm not sure what the date is at this time, or I would tell you, but we do know that it's potentially going to be a little longer than we hope, just because of sourcing materials is just difficult right now, but we're really pushing on them to do everything they can. I mean, if we can swap to that color and it's, 3 months sooner, let's look at swapping to that color, so.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, the parks, I mean, officially, kids can use it, it's safe, everything's been cleaned up. We had a great Eagle Scout project there, and the flower beds are in. Public Works is gonna work on getting the sign installed. So but it's usable. The community's already using it, the neighborhood's using it. We will hold off on having any type of ribbon cutting ceremony until the monument is there. I think that's only appropriate, so we'll make sure that that's there, and then we'll make a big, huge to-do and invite everybody to come celebrate with us, and it'll be great.
Awesome.
Excellent. Any council reports?
I went to the fire and rescue meeting today. It was good. Doing good work over there. Calls have decreased a lot actually in February and March, which I think they weren't quite expecting, but that's nice.
You still have a fire chief?
They do, yeah. So I mean, that's a plus. And I think I mentioned it at a previous meeting, but I know they're still kind of trying to evaluate. Their bond will be expiring soon, and so then coming to the voters to potentially do a levy to replace the bond, so they can increase in operations. So just keep an eye out for that. That might be. I think it's 2026. Their bond expires. So keep an eye out for that as a resident, but also for us to remember if we ever want to go out for something that we probably don't want to compete with that. And I don't think they've made any final decisions on that, but I know they're working on it. And they also had a great controlled burn last week. And then I think their next sort of infrastructure project is they're wanting to, they have sort of an old like manufactured home in their training grounds that they're trying to get rid of. And then potentially build a new training structure back there. So they're trying to look at funding options for that. But yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Councilor Lehman?
Just a kind of an observation, but maybe a little bit of a question too. I was looking at the bus ridership, and it's significantly up over previous years. But then our population is significantly up over previous years, and I'm wondering how much of the ridership is more people being willing to ride the bus, or just because certain percentage of population rides the bus and we've got more people now. And then also, just from looking at the chart, it appears that a big majority of the people that are riding the bus are students, because obviously when the schools close in December, ridership plummets, and just wondering if that was the intent. Or if, anyway, just throwing out there that our highways are not gonna get any less busy, and if we could encourage more people to use transit, that would be awesome, but I don't know if we actually do that very effectively. But anyway, just some observation.
Yeah, I know at least a couple times a year, we drop something in the newsletter to encourage. I was just thinking that over the weekend, actually, Councilor Lehman, on encouraging people to use the Saturday service if they're going to OSU for games and things. Parking's a pain, and there's just a lot of traffic there, but you can hop on the Philomath bus and you can get right to campus pretty easy. It's gotta be kind of midday ones, because I think the bus service ends at 8 o'clock
Night
or 9
games are
o'clock.
not your
so-
friend. Public transportation.
Cool. For the stuff that's happening on campus during the day, like ball games, baseball and other stuff, it's a good option to be able to look at. It doesn't cost anything, and probably not any slower than what it would take you to get there and park and get in and everything else. So it's definitely an option. So I was thinking we should drop something in the newsletter again, encourage people, especially in the summer months when usage tends to drop down a little bit more. I've got teenage kids even that aren't old enough to drive. They can hop on the bus and go down, hang out in Corvallis, and spend the day and come back. So it's a good option. Thanks.
Councilor Andrade?
At our last inclusivity committee meeting, we spoke a little bit about the Jedi training that we had recently, and I just wanted to ask Chris if you reached out to Jacqueline about that to find out what feedback she had gotten from.
I don't think I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then on that note, if anyone has any feedback they'd like to share, whether it's in a meeting or like send over email, I would greatly appreciate it. We talked about some to make sure that moving forward, because according to the strategic plan, like we're supposed to be doing training annually, I believe it said. And so like planning for that means that like it would be good to know what worked, what didn't work, what kinds of trainings we would like to have in the future. And on that note, I don't know if we still plan to do that annually, and if so, how we would like to move forward with that.
Counselor Carter?
I'm sorry that I wasn't there, but how did the movie go for Black History Month? Was it well attended?
Yeah.
And were
Maybe both.
audience asking questions?
I have 45 people over there talking about it. It was an active questioning, active question session.
Thought it was positive. The only note we had was just, we want to try to do a better job of working with the school district in the future, because I don't think there were any students there. And even if that means like, having the speaker come earlier and we also do like an assembly, at the end of the school day or something, since we're already, paying to bring them down to town and everything, but.
Well, I had thought it would be good to get like a trailer for the film and show it on the announcement.
Right, yeah.
But-
Yeah, I mean, I know like Chris talked about, like we did, promote it, but
And Rose said that she reached out
Yeah.
to the club on campus and they were supposed to be there, but I guess it just didn't work out and stuff.
right,
so.
having done a lot of student government, I also know
understand.
the only way to get students there is to give them free food
Mhm.
or make it mandatory. And even then, if you make it mandatory, it's still, 50-50. Yeah.
I did just want to remind everybody that there is no second city council meeting this month. So enjoy spring break. If it's a thing for you.
I'll make it a thing.
If not,
Oh.
it will be a nice evening and enjoy it.
Thank you.
When is that, is it SEC, whatever we're supposed to fill out for taxes
Oh,
due?
the annual statements of economic interest filing begins on Monday, the 15th. You will get an email in your city email account directing you to do it. Can I suggest a competition between the city council and the planning commission?
Let's do that.
Come first.
Um,
Planning commissioners, some of them are very fast.
and Chris, did you want to mention the LOC conference or?
LOC Spring Conference has been announced. I believe everybody's getting the emails from LOC. If you're interested in attending, contact Ruth or myself or Chelsea, we can get you registered. But yeah, we do put money in the budget every year for that. We watch that number to see how much that money is getting spent and not spent. But yeah, if it's something that you can take time off to do, we pay for the registration, we pay for the hotel room, pay for reimbursement for gas to get there. So we try to make it at no cost, but you do have to take some time off work or take some time out of your day to be able to be there. So let us know if you're interested. I strongly encourage you to attend. There's multiple sessions, so even if multiple people are there, we can divide and conquer and get a real glimpse. And it's just a good opportunity to rub shoulders with other city councils that don't run nearly as smooth as you do and hear the horror stories. So it's great.
Nice. Well, with that, we are going to move into executive session. Quick question: is there any chance we're going to come out and need to take any action?
There's no action, and it's just an informational item.
Okay. So we will not come out into executive session. We'll go ahead and conclude after the executive session. With that, per ORS 192.660(2)H, to consult legal counsel regarding current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. The Philomath City Council will now meet in executive session for the purposes to consult legal counsel regarding current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660 H and I, which allows counsel to meet in executive session to conduct these discussions. Designated staff, the news media, and other designated persons shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. The final decision may be made in the executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will not be returning to open session, and we will simply adjourn the meeting. I would remind the council members and the staff that the confidences in this executive session belong to the council as a body and not to the individual members. These confidences should be only disclosed if the city council as a body approves such a disclosure. If a member or a staff person does not believe they can maintain these confidences, then I would invite that member or staff person not to participate in the executive session.